This is about the town halls. We, of course, had lots of town halls over this past, I guess the end of the week and into the weekend. And there were people had some things to say for their Republican Congress people. So I'll start this and be right back.
Some pushback and some protests here. This is just amazing footage out of Georgia. Representative Rich McCormick held a town hall in his district yesterday. It's Georgia's seventh congressional district. It's a safe Trump district. He won it by double digits. McCormick won over 60% of the vote. And it actually was gerrymandered a few years ago to push out a Democrat and make it so it was more favorable to Republicans. And this is the crowd he's speaking to here. Here he is. The woman speaking at this town hall is, she says she's a descendant of Patrick Henry, and that's how her comments begin, talking about Trump's declaration of himself as king and the actions that he's taking with the cuts and Doge, etc.
Will be lost forever and tyranny will rise. I believe you know the rest of his speech. Something about give me liberty. It's clear from all the writings of our founding fathers that our great republic was never meant to be ruled by a dictator nor a king. My shock and pure horror when I woke up to find that our president had given himself unprecedented executive powers and then within a few days named himself king to his followers. Yeah.
Where's the question?
Tyranny.
Do you have a question for the Congress?
I do.
I remember this lady. That's pretty funny. I think it's good to let these people admonish. I don't know. I feel like a town hall should be, and I remember McCormick here. He definitely talks about can it be a discussion? It's like, well, if you feel like she's wrong, why don't you say so? If you feel like she's wrong, why don't you tell her how you think she's wrong? And make it a fucking discussion instead of just sitting there and being like, ugh, is there a question? Jesus, this is so silly.
Thank you. Tyranny is rising.
Republicans like to do.
Right, yeah. It's just avoid. They would rather avoid than address, because we know that they can't really address a lot of things substantively. It's they always got to do a classic MAGA pivot or something like that. They got to do their own little weave, and I'm sure they tell themselves in their mind oh, I just did a whataboutism about something Joe Biden did that's not even fucking close. I did a weave, and they fucking get all excited and shit.
Yeah, it's so fucking weird, dude. And it wasn't always like this. It didn't really become this ridiculous until
crazy
MAGA came in and Republican Party just turned into a bunch of fucking victims, and that's what they use to try to get their way, is just to pretend to be a damn victim
all the time. And nobody's better at it than Trump. So.
Yeah.
In the White House, and a man has declared himself our king. So I would like to know, rather, the people would like to know what you, congressmen, and your fellow congressmen are going to do to rein in the megalomaniac in the White House.
Listen to those cheers. People are standing up.
Bro, I think this dude has a Galaxy S4 or something. That's it looks like a 10-year-old phone.
I'm not going to give you my best foghorn leghorn response. But what I was even go ahead and sit down, thank you. When you talk about tyranny, when you talk about presidential power, power. I remember having the same discussion with Republicans when Biden was elected.
That's the most, and they rightfully chew him.
Yep.
The funny thing is, you're sitting here and a lot of you would probably say those January 6s who are yelling just as loud as you.
So then he compares them to Jan 6ers, which is quite a stretch when they are sitting there just talking to you, bro. They're just they're yelling. They're
trying to let you know they're not happy. They're not trying to break into this building and kill you. That's not what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they're not.
It's two opposite things.
They're not attacking the people that are protecting you right now with flagpoles and pepper spray.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no violence occurring here. Like this is not even remotely comparable. But he's gonna continue to.
He's gonna try to gaslight
play
him.
the victim. Yeah, he's gonna gaslight and play the victim. That's all he's gonna do.
Have to point out that one of the sort of power grabby things Trump is doing is purging the FBI of anybody who investigated January 6th.
Yeah. It's the false equivalence. It does not ring true here. And also to say that in Georgia, where even if people are voting for Trump there, they remember that Georgia was the subject of Trump's most egregious, arguably, that in Arizona, 2020 lies, including the phone call that he made trying to lean on elected Republicans that those same constituents elected to find a couple tens of thousands of votes to put him over the edge to defeat Joe Biden. So that bringing up January 6th there to a Georgia crowd, I don't know about that. And he did not get the reaction he wanted. Let's listen to a little bit more. And then there's another part about Social Security, which is incredible.
What?
I'll be back here in just a moment. I have to go check on that.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Thrones too, thank you. Let's go ahead and move on because.
This is exactly here. All right, that's good. So they chanted shame at him, and then he tried to move on, and they didn't let him. I mean, it's amazing. Here is another part of this town hall, which, you know, it's a shame that Sam isn't here to cover this, because this is exactly what he would have wanted to hear from a crowd. Here is McCormick trying to justify the Republicans' plans to cut mandatory spending, which basically includes Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program, which is essentially Medicaid for kids, and SNAP, the food assistance program that feeds 41 million Americans a month on average. This is how they reacted to his proposal that it's the Republicans, they're all trying to do it, and Trump in public is saying that he doesn't want to cut Medicaid, but then he endorses the Republican budget plan, which guts Medicaid.
Yes.
Here's that reaction.
Something that I'm willing to compromise on, okay? We have solutions that we agreed on. That I have 4 Democrats that said that they were willing to. We're not going to take it away from anybody who hasn't. We're not going to take it away, change anything for anybody who's about to get it. But maybe if you're 10 years away, you adjust it by 3 months. You're 20 years away, you adjust it by 6 months. You're 30 years away, you adjust it by a year. Lifting the cap. When you have $36 trillion of debt, and you're the world currency, you're the standard world currency, and you're paying $1 trillion of debt interest per year, is not going to fix the eventual economic collapse of the United States. It's just not. It's just not. If you don't don't do something with Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, which is 75% of our budget, is mandatory spending. 75%. Google it right now. 75% of your budget is mandatory spending. We have a 30% deficit. If you cut all of your military and all of your discretionary spending, you still have a shortfall. We are heading towards a cliff of where we will no longer be the economic standard of the world, which we've been since 1972, and you'll lose your place in history, you'll lose your buying power, your interest rate will go up, and you'll add $9 trillion.
We're all trying to get through this. Let's be respectful while the congressman speaks.
Nobody can hear when you're yelling.
Damn it. What the hell even is this?
Oh, no one can hear when you're yelling? Oh, no. Your constituents are mad at you because you're talking about in like coded language, cutting into the most threadbare safety net.
And of course, he didn't acknowledge that they're also trying to give billionaires and the biggest corporations huge tax cuts in this. Like, you know, they simultaneously are saying like, oh, well, no, our debt's too big of an issue. And yet they want to raise the debt ceiling. For what? And it's like, it seems the pretty obvious thing to sort of slot into that huge gap is going to be the tax cuts to billionaires, is the great billionaire golden parachute from, you know, the courtesy of the Donald Trump 47th presidency. Like, it's just to make rich people richer, everybody. You guys fell for the, like, the people who voted for Trump, you fell for this scam twice now. You've fallen for this scam twice. You fucking idiots. Holy shit. I can't, like, my God, you guys have just deluded yourselves to such a fucking pathetic, like, bootlicking, just pile of sludge. that just, you know, wears a red hat and defends this guy the second you hear anything criticizing him. It's fucking despicable.
In the Western world, basically. I mean, we barely have a social safety net in this country. People love Social Security and Medicare in particular, and they're not buying his BS here. Someone just chanted, raise the cap.
It's not time to be quiet and listen to this sort of charlatan. It's time to scream him out of the room and make yourself heard. Right. This guy, this thing where they say lift the cap, and he goes into some sort of like Chicken Little scenario about the government collapsing. We need to lift that cap and also just generally raise taxes on the type of people that put that guy in power. It is very simple. And the crowd knows that. The crowd says not only lift the cap, raise taxes. If we're in such a dire financial situation, why are people that you go to lunch with so flush? Why are their pockets so goddamn full? Everyone sees that.
Everyone sees it because we have been slashing taxes over and over and over again. And all they're trying to do here is justify an extension of the 2017 Trump tax cuts, which, yes, it cut taxes broadly, but you know who got a majority of the tax cuts? The people at the very top. And that's how income and wealth inequality gets exacerbated. And specifically what the Republicans are trying to do, not about Social Security, we know what the answer is. I mean, amazing that audience just yelled it out to him. Because as Matt says, if you're worried about the budget, you know, there's a really, really easy way to solve it. It's raise taxes on the rich so that you can cut into the deficit.
Yeah, you raise taxes on the wealthiest people so that the amount of tax revenue you're getting from them just completely just dwarfs any amount of tax revenue you're getting from the lowest one, the lowest like 5%, the lowest 25%, the lowest 50%, what have you. Like I would certainly be well within the bottom 50% and, you know, in terms of like the tax brackets of the United States. And like, if I got like I don't know, 3 or 4% reduction in my federal tax burden, that would actually make a huge difference for like me and my family. 3 or 4% being cut. 3 or 4% being cut for these guys is literally additionally is multiple billions of dollars a year additionally that they don't fucking need. This trickle down economics bullshit that you fucking idiots keep just clinging on to for dear life since the Reagan era is just so pathetic. It has never been shown to work. It has never been proven to to benefit you. You continue to get shafted by Republicans over and over and over again, who somehow through lies convince you that they're better for the economy when they're not. You look at what the deficit does every time a Democrat's in power versus the deficit every time a Republican is in power, and it couldn't be more distant in terms of who has a better effect on the deficit. Democrats always reduce it. Clinton, we had a surplus. Bush raised the deficit by a lot. Trump raised the deficit in his first term by more than any other president in history, I'm pretty certain. And then now I'm sure he's already on his way to doing so again. They're already indicating that they're going to, because they want to give the billionaires yet another tax cut so that they can continue to pocket billions upon billions of dollars while you get just fucking table scraps. It's so ridiculous and silly that you guys fall for this over and over again.
Comes to Social Security, first of all, yeah, it's self-funding, but it's lagging behind in terms of making sure that it's as protected as possible, because we refuse to raise the cap on income that is taxable that would help make it so that it is protected, because there's so much wealth concentrated at the top that is not subjected to the Social Security tax, because the threshold right now as of 2025 is around 176K. Then that, if you make 177K, all of that money that you're getting is not subjected to taxes that go towards Social Security. And when we have exacerbated wealth inequality, that means there's more money above that threshold. It's ridiculous. It should be, you could eliminate the cap and fund it so much so that the benefits increase. But even if you just raise it, we would be able to solve the situation entirely. But they don't want to tell you that.
Because the real thing isn't balancing the budget. The real solution, and it needs to be stated so clearly for people, is to give tax breaks to the people that put them in power. So that's why when they say, like, they have, if they politically speaking, they would like to not have to go after Social Security and all these programs. They obviously want to get rid of them. They hate people being served, but ultimately they hate how much it's costing them. And like, if there was as much waste in the government as they said they would, they wouldn't be needing to even look at these programs, but they will, because ultimately all they care about is more money at the end of the day for their rich donors.
And they
Correct.
also don't like the fact
That's
that
the
Social
priority.
Security, when you start to be eligible for it as a senior when you're 65, it may keep you out of the workforce, and they don't have the ability to continue to have an expanded pool of desperate people who have to work, although there are still many people above that retirement age who still have to work. He's also not correct about the percentage of what's mandatory spending. It's not 70%, it's closer to 61%. But what they're going for with the Republican budget is specifically Medicaid, which covers around 71 million people. But they're going to go after the 20 million people that were added under the Affordable Care Act expansion,
that makes sense.
which is probably the easiest for them to do. And Medicaid is for people who are of lower income in our country, people who have disabilities. That's the folks that they want to target. And those will be the folks on the front lines, because they're afraid of that third rail of Social Security and Medicare, even though they will try to cut that too. But the people that are going to be first, who are immiserated by this Republican budget, will be the poorer Americans and disabled Americans, with Medicaid being in their crosshairs right now. Oh, and also they're going to try to privatize Medicare and make it more Medicare Advantage, which is more costly, more inefficient,
More fraud laden.
And more fraud laden, but it makes some people rich. So,
yeah. I mean, the Republican priorities are so obvious. I mean, this happens literally every time they win elections in this way, where they have each House of Congress, they have and then they have the White House as well. They have the presidency. They always, whatever issues they run on that get them elected, whether it's in this election, it was like running on inflation, running on, culture war issues, like, getting men out of women's sports, they're sticking it to the transgenders, blah, 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 all this ridiculous shit that doesn't actually have an impact on everyday people. Whereas you've got, and it's amazing, the opponent in this case was Kamala Harris, who is running on reducing tax burden for the middle class, offering government incentives for starting a business or buying a house for first-time home buyers, $25,000, I think, of down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. For someone like me, that would make a tremendous difference in my life. That would suddenly make the prospect of becoming a homeowner like an instant reality, rather than something that's going to take me many years to achieve. She ran on such good policies that benefit the middle class, and yet for some reason you guys were just so caught up on culture war issues and were sold that she didn't have your best interests at heart for whatever reason. You guys got so caught up in that you voted again for a guy who's gonna rug pull you. He literally rug pulled a bunch of people with a fucking meme coin when, you know, right leading up to inauguration day, where he rug pulled a bunch of people on a crypto scam, right? Melania did the same thing. And you guys support this man wholeheartedly, even though he is actively scamming people out of billions of dollars as he enters the White House. Just foolish and despicable. I don't know how you live with yourselves. I don't understand how you live with yourselves. This was Brian Tyler Cohen covering another town hall. This was a different town hall. I'm glad that the Majority Report and Emma didn't get into this town hall, because I didn't want to like have them show it and then go watch Brian. So we'll watch this other.
We've got some really
here.
remarkable news here. Republican members of Congress are now facing widespread backlash across the U.S. as their constituents are flooding town halls. These constituents are pushing back against Trump and Elon's efforts to use Doge to do things like fire nonpartisan civil servants and cut Americans' health care and earn benefits. Here's just a sampling of the kind of reception that Republican politicians are receiving nationwide.
You can go and yell all you want, but I can't understand 10 people, let alone 100 people.
So we did already see some of the
not the president. And you are doing us a disservice to set that down and not stand up for us. And
couldn't hardly hear his response.
It's going to be litigated in court. You don't think I'm going to stand up for you? Stand up. That's not going to be an effective counter.
I'm a registered Republican voter, retired active Army officer. How can you tell me that Doge, with some college whiz kids from a computer terminal in Washington, D.C., without even getting out into the field, after about a week or maybe two, has determined that it's okay to cut veterans' benefits?
I think a couple things. Let me give you an example. Did you know that the VA was in charge of payments for illegals for housing? Basically, the VA.
No, I'd like for you to send me. Could you send me that reference so I could research that? Because no, I'm not aware of that. And I would tell you that that's a red herring, a false flag. If you're throwing that kind of political stuff up, trying to cut veterans' benefits, that's very alarming to me.
when will you?
And we got, because we had a video last week sometime about the VA, and some people were stating that benefits were not being cut. So maybe not directly. Maybe like certain budget allocations towards various benefits has not been cut, but like when you cut staffing, like could that have an effect on the delivery of those benefits? Would you agree with that, CQC? Would that be an accurate way to surmise that? Is that depending on what staff is being cut, is that the success of benefits actually being utilized by people could decrease? Hello?
Yeah. Sorry about
okay.
that. I was muted.
You're good.
But yeah, it's possible. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. As a veteran myself, I'm going to find out very soon.
Right.
You know? So
That's true.
over the next couple of months, I'm definitely going to find out.
Right. And I guess, yeah, it's probably good to just sort of address, I don't know if that viewer would tune into our live stream or whatnot, but we did have somebody in our comments who we gave an indication to that we would look into benefits. To be fair, at this point, again, I haven't heard about any benefits that are directly being cut. I think it's one of those where there could be a ripple effect situation where what we see first is staffing cuts, and then later on we hear about, wait times at the VA on average have increased by 30%, 40% potentially, or what have you. You know, delivery times for certain medications to get to people. I don't know how much of that is handled by the VA, but you know, if that's what we're looking for, is if the benefits themselves themselves were not cut, but the sort of delivery of those benefits or the access to them is somehow hindered by other cuts, like staffing cuts. That's what I think I would be most concerned with, and that gentleman did a good job pushing back on his congressperson there.
Yeah, and that's the main concern right now is these cuts going to affect like the medical area of the VA, as in like VA healthcare, like being able to get like, go see a doctor and everything like that. That's what's gonna be effective first. Now, as for the actual benefits, I still think that is definitely on the list because that was in Project 2025, and right now Trump has signed EOs that some of them being verbatim from Project 2025. And there is a fucking checklist that people have made online where you can actually see the things that he has accomplished from Project 2025. And also, we gotta remember he had on his like campaign page Agenda 47, which was also just Project 2025 with a different title. Like, come on. I can't remember what it was called. Let's see. I have a cat on me.
I don't know who Heat Map News is.
Yeah, I don't know who they are either.
Paywall their shit.
Yeah, of course. Most of the articles that are covering this stuff are probably going to be paywalled.
Two weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's a consensus that he's implemented a lot of what's laid out in Project 2025, and anybody who's still denying that, I mean you're lying to yourselves at this point. Like it's so obvious, and I mean we told you that they would do this, and it's crazy that people still are like, no, he says he don't know nothing about it. He don't know nothing about it. It's like, I believe him. You believe him above all else, including your own eyeballs. Fucking idiots.
Yeah, and I don't know what MAGA is, how they got in this mindset of like, they know that he lies consistently, and they even admit that, yeah, he lies consistently, and but they got this idea in their head that, yeah, he says this stuff, but he's never going to actually implement it. And then he turns around and just does it. So like,
right, but he just doesn't call it Project 2025. So they're like, no, I don't see it. None of those EOs said Project 2025, did they? Gotcha, lib, like fucking idiots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he's gonna of course hide it and word it differently, put it behind a different title because it was super unpopular.
Yeah. Yep,
so
they wanted to avoid the polling around it impacting Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
Stand up to them and say that is enough.
Save big with Milani Nissan specials.
Shit. Go away.
Result of the fraud and abuse that has been discovered already.
But what is going on right now today is the House of Representatives and the Senate are totally abdicating their responsibility to protect.
I think this video was recorded on a 2005 Razor version 3, turned sideways, of course.
You stand here and say, I'm not sure about that, or I'm not sure about that. You put up, frankly, some of these slides are very misleading. Let's talk about the Trump tax cut. How much of that deficit in that jump from 22 up was the tax cuts to the incredibly rich people of the world who are now in our White House and dismantling our government.
I'll clap for that. I'll clap for that.
You are an officer of the court in addition to swearing an oath to our Constitution, and yet, well, you and so many of your colleagues are just sitting around watching. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens next month.
Dude, I gotta just say this for a sec. The amount of like average Democratic voters, like this lady strikes me as a lady who like works as like a pet sitter or works as like, you know, I don't know, just has like maybe is like a private business owner or, you know, just some like normal everyday job. You know, she's a little on the older side, so maybe she's retired from whatever her career position was. But the amount of just average people who are not politicians, who are not, I would not expect, she could be a teacher, right? But I you know, you could expect her to be like, to not be a politician, to not be like an economist or something like that. I could be wrong about all these things, but for her to just so eloquently and calmly convey why these things are a problem, the amount of Democrats I find who are just where their job has nothing to do with their politics, where their profession does not technically include their politics per se, the amount of these people who just know what they're talking about and can speak to power and can you know, so directly and so righteously point out these issues. The amount of Democrats I find who can do that, who are just average Joes, is amazing. It's amazing how many of these people can eloquently state these opinions.
Well, it just shows how more in tune they are to politics than
They tend to be more educated.
MAGA
That's
is.
one thing. They tend to be more educated. But they tend to be just broadly, they just tend to be more informed. They tend to have media literacy to where they can root out what is true versus what's untrue and not fall for weird conspiracy theory or grifter shit. They
usually can read past the 6th grade level.
Yeah, exactly. We can recognize grift from a mile away, and I think us millennials were the last true generation to be taught how to evaluate sources better and how to properly use Google as a search engine and other ways of searching things to find factual, meaningful data than to just find shit confirming your bias. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, those workers have rights, and yes, they've been violated, so now they're getting processed. Our courts can't handle this. These people have planned this for years, and they are doing it. It is a fire hose of action, illegal actions that even you acknowledge right here. But we're just going to let the courts sort it out. There won't be a country left to run, sir, if you guys just sit back and are afraid of a primary.
I think it's fair to say that Trump and Republicans did not factor this level of outrage and backlash in their Project 2025 plans.
They did
not.
But
let's just take a step back here and remember what they've been trying to do during the past month. It's been a deliberate strategy to blitzkrieg the entire federal government with as much extreme and destabilizing policy as possible. Now, part of this, of course, is just to flat out hurt people because it'll inure to the benefit of Trump's donor class. But there's another part of the strategy that's about power. Not actual power, but the perception of power. It is designed to make us numb to his actions and so that we'll just give in. It's a strategy to overwhelm the media and the opposition with rapid-fire actions, all to create the illusion of strength and control that is so overpowering it prevents Americans from having the will to even show up to town halls like these to hold our elected representatives accountable. It is authoritarianism 101. And the strategy is not even that much of a secret. Here's Steve Bannon outright admitting to it on camera.
So what we've got to do is just hit.
We've seen this PBS Frontline interview multiple times, and I like Brian Tyler Cohen, but let's see, what does he have here? Oh, he's gonna show some of the protests. That's probably a good idea. I think that's what he was showing here.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it! Got to be ready for that YouTube ad, bro.
Dude, your ads are way worse than
that
mine
have happened in
sometimes.
just the past week. And it's not just big angry crowds. It's actually something that's reflected in the data.
Just, like,
when Donald Trump took office,
based off the area you live in.
Oh, it definitely does. It definitely does.
Last month, it looked like his effort to project power was actually working. His approval rating reached around 50%. For the first time, he had net positive support in this country. But now, recent polls show it dropping precipitously. And multiple polls, including those from Reuters, Quinnipiac, CNN, and Gallup, all indicate that Americans disapprove rather than approve of Trump. Everything from January 6 pardons, banning trans people from the military, shutting down USAID, tariffs that will raise prices, and mass firings of civil servants are all deeply unpopular with the American public. And maybe most worrying for Trump, he's also receiving low approval ratings on even his most signature issue, the economy. Yeah, turns out that promising to lower prices on day one and then actually presiding over rising inflation isn't a great way to prove to voters that you know what you're doing. So look, if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. While we still have serious challenges ahead, and that much is clear, the fight is still worth it. Trump derives his power from the perception of total control, from the perception that he can quash all dissent. But when Americans show up at these town halls like they're doing right now, it instantly destroys that illusion. So let's stay engaged and do what past generations of Americans have done so well, and that is to beat the fascists.
Hell yeah, brother.
Before you go,
that verbiage makes me happy. I think that is our ultimate. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's a democratic norms versus fascism. At the end of the day, that's what it is. That's what it is right now. That's the current battle that's being waged. In the United States.